St. Cyprian's Episcopal Church. So we have one of our geocachers in the area who's got thousands and thousands of finds, is a former, I guess, Episcopalian leader. And so pretty much any Episcopal church in the area, anywhere around here is, and he goes all over, he'll have a cache. So we know we're gonna find one here. And let's tell you a little history about who Saint Cyprian was. Well, his full name is Thaddeus Cyprianus, and he lived from around 200 to September 14th, 258 AD, and was the bishop of Carthage and a notable early Christian writer, many of whose Latin works are still in existence today. He was born to a rich pagan family in North Africa, perhaps at Carthage, where he received a classical education. Soon after converting to Christianity, he became a bishop in 249. At the age of 35, he got baptized, after which he gave away a portion of his wealth to the poor of Carthage as befitted a man of his status. He describes his conversion in the following words: "When I was still lying in darkness and gloomy night, I used to regard it as extremely difficult and demanding to do what God's mercy was suggesting to me. I myself was held in bonds by the innumerable errors of my previous life, from which I did not believe I could possibly be delivered. So I was disposed to acquiesce in my clinging vices and to indulge my sins. But after that, by the help of the water of new birth, the stain of my former life was washed away, and a light from above, serene and pure, was infused into my reconciled heart. A second birth restored me to a new man. Then, in a wondrous manner, every doubt began to fade. I clearly understood that what had first lived within me, enslaved by the vices of the flesh, was earthly, and that what, instead, the Holy Spirit had wrought within me was divine and heavenly." Cyprian was a controversial figure during his lifetime. His strong pastoral skills, his firm conduct during the Novatianist heresy and the outbreak of the Plague of Cyprian, and his eventual martyrdom at Carthage established his reputation and proved his sanctity in the eyes of the church. This Novatianist heresy stems from the followers of the theology of Novatian and their view of the not allowing back into fellowship those former Christians who had renounced their faith and took part in ritual sacrifice to the pagan gods during the persecution under Emperor Decius in AD 250. Due largely to the writings of Cyprian, the church declared these Novatianists to be heretical in their views. The Plague of Cyprian was a pandemic in the Roman Empire from 249 to 262 and got its name from him because Cyprian had witnessed and described it early on. Source information on what this plague actually was is scarce, but some believe it to have been something along the lines of maybe smallpox, a pandemic influenza, or something very similar to Ebola virus. At the end of 256, a new persecution of the Christians broke out under Emperor Valerian, and Pope Sixtus II was executed in Rome. In Africa, Cyprian prepared his people for the expected edict of persecution, and himself set an example when he was brought before the Roman proconsul Aspasius Paternus on August 30th of 257. He refused to sacrifice to the pagan deities and firmly professed Christ. The proconsul banished him, and he went back to comfort his flock and his banished clergy. In a vision, he believed he saw his approaching fate. When a year had passed, he was recalled and kept practically a prisoner in his own villa in expectation of severe measures after a new and more stringent imperial edict arrived, and which Christian writers subsequently claimed demanded the execution of all Christian clerics. On September 13th of 258, Cyprian was imprisoned on the orders of the new proconsul, Galerius Maximus. The public examination of Cyprian by Galerius Maximus on 14 September 258 has been preserved. Galerius Maximus says, "Are you Thaddeus Cyprianus?" Cyprian replies, "I am." Galerius says, The most sacred emperors have commanded you to conform to the Roman rites. Cyprian replies, I refuse. Galerius, take heed for yourself. Cyprian, do as you are bid. In so clear a case, I may not take heed. Galerius, after briefly conferring with his judicial council, with much reluctance pronounced the following sentence. Cyprian, you have long lived an irreligious life, and have drawn together a number of men bound by an unlawful association, and professed yourself an open enemy to the gods and the religion of Rome. And the pious, most sacred, and august emperors have endeavored in vain to bring you back to conformity with their religious observances. Whereas, therefore, you have been apprehended as principal and ringleader in these infamous crimes, and you shall be made an example to those whom you have wickedly associated with you. The authority of law shall be ratified in your blood. Galerius then read the sentence of the court from a written tablet. It is the sentence of this court that Thasius Cyprianus be executed with the sword. Cyprian replies, Thanks be to God. The execution was carried out at once in an open place near the city. A vast multitude followed Cyprian on his last journey. He removed his garments without assistance, knelt down, and prayed. After he blindfolded himself, he was beheaded by the sword. The body was buried by Christians near the place of his execution. Now that we know a little more about who this Saint Cyprian was, let's go find this geocache associated with his name here. Okay, and now we're on to the cache. He doesn't usually have tough ones, and they tend to be in areas of trees, and that's where it's leading us to. Though these little things always have me concerned. Yeah, for those of you all who are maybe new at caching, this is something I learned early on, but not early enough. These pole wires, here's a teaching moment. You can go up here and mount a bison tube way up here and then slide that back down. And now, after we learned that, we found quite a few, if they move. So anytime I'm near them, I always check them, but these are not moving. So we're going back to the tree idea. Alright, everything's leading us to this tree.
Oh, here.
Hey there. That looks like that's like a matchstick holder. We had our eyes looking for a little black canister. I guess people describe them differently. Alright. Not big enough for a tractable, but oh well. Okay, and that sums up the fun for this one. And as
now you know who
Saint Cyprian is, and you learn a little history, and you see a little different ways that you could find a cache, even though this one was not in those slidey things. Now you know where to look. Rock on. See you later.